Okay,
How
hello
many people are
everyone.
waiting? Hello?
Yeah, some people are waiting, that's true. Um, Hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Socialist Hype House interview. Today we have a very special guest, MK, aka I'm Not Natalie on TikTok.
Hi.
Little info for you guys if you haven't heard of MK. MK is a leftist. She's part of actually the TikTok group called the Leftists, formerly the Liberal Hype House. She's been on TikTok for what, a little less than a year now?
Yeah, probably since December, actually, not that
Oh,
long.
oh, okay.
And she has a little less than 100,000 followers on TikTok, and we are very excited to have her here.
I'm excited to be here.
So for the audience, for Natalie and for Kristen, just a little bit of a time frame. We're going to go over just some general questions. Then we have 4 topics we're going to cover today. We're going to cover modern day feminism. We're going to cover TikTok harassment. We're going to cover the future of the Progressive Party in America, and we're going to cover the future of capitalism. And then that'll take about 45 to 55 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for about a 10-minute Q&A. In the Q&A, please don't be mean, and please ask actual questions. All right, what do you say, MK? You ready to do this?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, perfect. So just a couple of general questions for you. First off, what made you want to create political videos on TikTok?
It's kind of funny, actually, when I talk about it, because I started as just kind of solely a feminist account. And then I started seeing I think it was Nick who inspired me to make my account, oddly enough, because I was there needs to be some more people on the left to combat this dumbness, because he was the main political TikToker.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I don't see enough leftist TikTokers. We need some more. So I remember me and Izzy were a couple of the few first original political TikTokers. So it was mostly just him and his dumbness that inspired me to create my account.
Right.
That's funny.
What policies would you say you're most passionate about?
Universal healthcare, clearly, that's always something I talk about. And then, women's reproductive rights, being a feminist and everything, and that being one of my main issues, abortion. Right. That's my favorite topic to talk about. But lately, a lot of prison reform and things like that, not only ending the war on drugs, but decriminalizing drugs, and just abolishing the death penalty and all those kinds of things, and abolishing private prisons and all of that good stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kristen, did you want to jump in really quick?
Oh, well, I just think it's you were one of the first political TikTokers that I ever found, so I've always looked up to you and stuff like that, because I loved I feel content is always very easily digestible and stuff like that, and so I feel it's especially because you're what, 17, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
about to turn 18.
Yeah, so it's so great because I mean, I'm 20, but it's so great seeing so many young people and stuff, and I'm sure you're getting tons of younger viewers being able to get on TikTok and actually be activists and learn more about politics and stuff like that, because I know especially even people my age and my parents' age and stuff like that, they're so apathetic towards politics,
right?
And so it's really refreshing to see a lot of young people actually care about politics,
right? And it's nice to be able to maybe some kids don't know about it, or they don't know the details, or they're not really sure what's out there. So it's nice to kind of be that bridge for them and to teach them about things. It's kind of nice because I have a lot of people who are you inspired me to get into politics, and that's my favorite. I love hearing that. I'm yes, leftist youth, let's go.
So are you interested in running a political campaign in the future at all, or anything like that?
I am. That's always been my ideal. That's my goal. To run for Congress or something like that. But I am kind of a big baby, and I whenever I get criticism, any criticism at all, I'm oh my god, I get so upset, and it just really bothers me. It sits with me, and I'm do I have the balls to be a politician and deal with just constant criticism and confrontation? I was I don't know how to do this, but that's just probably something I have to work on.
Yeah. So if whenever you're thinking about voting or choosing a candidate that you would endorse, is there any specific qualities or anything that you look for? And I I see you have like your Bernie poster and stuff like that. Is there anything like specific that like maybe not like a specific like policy, but like something in like the way he acts or something like that that really like speaks to you?
So definitely one of the biggest things for me is I'm very passionate about getting money like out of politics. I don't like politicians who are like bought, people who take money from like lobbyist groups and like political action committees, things like that. I absolutely just hate that. And so that was one of the things that really disappointed me about a lot of the candidates this year, except for Bernie, and even people like Elizabeth Warren, who could have had the opportunity to be just like this true like progressive, but then kind of let the progressive movement down once they started, like they vowed to not take any money from lobbyist groups and then ended up doing that. That was something that was really disappointing. So it's definitely one of the biggest things for me. I don't know why, it's just like it just bothers me when they take money from things like big pharma and things like that.
Yeah, because then it just feels like their movement is completely disingenuous. Like they're just doing it for the money is all they, I think, whenever.
You have a political creator that you admire the most?
All my friends and leftists, probably. They're just like some of the greatest people, including my friend Isra Hersey. She's like the best, and she just like teaches me like new things every day, some things I never really thought about, ways to go about like putting your message out there.
She's very smart.
Yeah, she's so smart.
Okay, so I think with that we can kind of move into the first pretty specific category. So for the first category we got for you is modern day feminism. So the first question is kind of more of a more overarching question. What are some of the reasons you think that feminism is still necessary in 2020?
That's a great question. I think feminism is still necessary because, you know, we never even passed like the Equal Rights Amendment that's been circulating for such a long time. It's very much legal. We still have very much so discrimination when it comes to our justice system and dealing with rape accusations, and like I think in like 990 out of every 1,000 like sexual assaulters will walk free. Things like in the education system, women in poverty, we know like from statistics that poverty is inherently sexist. Even I was talking earlier about how I'm passionate about women's reproductive rights. Those are constantly under attack. And if we don't have like a strong feminist movement to like combat those attacks, then that Roe v. Wade could very easily be overturned and things like that. And people like to think that the US is just this great like country when it comes, like we have such this great system of like equality and everything's equal, but people don't even recognize the fact that the US only ranks like 52nd for gender equality, and we're like in like the top 10 for like most dangerous countries for women or something like that.
Wow.
Like people don't like to like think about that, but they like to think the US is just land of the free and like equality, but like there's still so much progress that needs to be made.
Yeah. Is there anything did you want to comment?
One policy idea that a lot of us at the Socialist Type House believe in and fight for is the idea that stay-at-home mothers is an actual job, and we believe they should receive compensation. Do you believe in that policy idea?
Yes. And I think going along with it, like paid maternity leave, like the U.S. is like only one of 2 countries to not even offer that. And I think it's just unacceptable.
It's crazy to think that like women are like what, half the population of the United States, and then literally every person from the United States has to have a mother somewhere, but then they don't want to have rights for their own mother to like have maternity leave and stuff like that. And I know like personally with my mom, whenever she had my younger brother, she was only to be able to be on disability for like or like she had to go on as short-term disability because they didn't do maternity leave in the state I live in. So then like what they would have to do is that she could only be off for so long without it going against her like job and everything like that. So she was only able to be off for like a little bit, like not even a month, I think. And imagine not being like in even in like animal societies and stuff like that, they're usually like the babies are with their mothers a lot longer than a month. And for like developmental things.
It's interesting to me that like pro-lifers don't advocate for things like that.
Yes.
Because there's such evidence when you like look at the empirical data behind when you talk to women who have gotten abortions, they all say they have priorities like school and work that would come in between them and being able to have a baby. Like 70% of women overwhelmingly say that that's an issue for them. and that they just simply can't afford to like raise a child, they can't afford to miss work to have a baby and all these things. And just how much in like other countries that have paid maternity leave, just how like implementing that decreased like the rates of abortions and things like that happen. Like it's just crazy.
Not even to mention, like, even without having free healthcare, the cost it is to have a child in America, I think on average it's like $30,000. It's completely ridiculous, you know?
Which is why, you know, it baffles me when pro-lifers don't advocate for expansion of healthcare, especially universal healthcare, even though overwhelmingly, again, there's evidence that ties that directly to decreasing abortions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing that's often overlooked is not abandoning abstinence-only teachings and providing universal contraceptives. Things like Plan B, condoms, things like that. It's surprising to me that more pro-lifers don't bring that up.
Yeah, you think, especially with like wanting to be worried about the infant and stuff like that, that they would actually be doing things that would benefit the infant. But once the infant's born, it's not their problem.
Right.
Which is definitely a criticism on that. Did you have can I ask my question? So obviously like a big step in 2016 for women was definitely having Hillary Clinton, I think, run for president and stuff like that. Like obviously like I'm not personally much of a Hillary Clinton supporter, but it's definitely interesting to see like women running for president, and it's a big step I think for women all across the country and stuff like that. But do you think Hillary Clinton would have been much of a feminist president? Like, do you think she would be implementing these policies?
No, and this was one of the things I was aware of, even like 8th grade me, when Hillary Clinton was running. I was very much like, just solely being a woman does not make you like a mouthpiece for the feminist movement, does not mean that you're going to help women, does not mean that you're going to be an advocate for like women's rights or anything like that. And I think that's a lot of what you know, not only Hillary but people like Kamala Harris thought, that just like playing the I'm a woman card was enough. And that was one of the ways we were talking earlier about where Elizabeth Warren went wrong when she started hiring like former Hillary and Kamala people in her staff. That's kind of when she became like less of a progressive and thought that she could just be complacent and solely like just simply being a woman. And it's just not enough. And these Warren Democrats who wanted to like yell at Bernie supporters and be like, well, you're sexist for not getting out of the way for a woman, even though I felt as a woman, you know, Bernie would have been the best person to advocate for like my rights and the rights of women in both countries. You know what I mean?
Also by that same logic, we could just call Warren supporters anti-Semitic for not getting out of the way of the first Jewish candidate in history.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know, like, me personally, obviously I'm a feminist and everything like that, but, like, it's just, I feel like it's so, like, deceitful whenever, like, women in office are running, like, oh, I could be the first woman president and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, there's more to being a woman than just being a woman. You know what I mean? And so it just seems like that's their only, if that's the only thing, the reason why I should vote for someone is just because you're a woman, then obviously I feel like then you're not any better than the male candidate that you're running against, you know?
Yeah, it's just kind of like taking advantage of like the identity politics game. And even like some of my friends are like, even my sister is very much so like, she totally played into that where she was like, I don't want any more like old angry white men in office, so I'm voting for Elizabeth Warren. And I was like, oh, I can't. You do you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I feel like maybe she had like Elizabeth Warren might have had like the right like ideas, maybe. She just did not like, I mean, like, she definitely was not my first choice, but I feel like she definitely, if she wanted to be the Democratic nominee, she could have went about it a million times better than what she did.
She definitely would have been, you know, if Bernie hadn't been there, she definitely would, towards the end, would have been my second choice out of like the finalists.
She was like a distant second choice for me. Like, it was Bernie number one, and then it's like,
it was like Bernie and then like everybody else. But at the time that everybody else was Elizabeth Warren, and I even went to like one of her rallies and like met her. Like, I have like a picture with her on my Instagram, and the caption is literally like, this is me months later telling you to vote for Bernie in like 2020, just because I did really like her, and I was very much like juggling between like her and Bernie. I was always a Bernie supporter, But I really did like her at first, and she, like I said, would have been my second choice. But then she slowly just started like disappointing me like more and more, like as like the days went on, and I was like, oh Liz, you just dropped
it wasn't a good choice.
Right.
Kristen, did you want to ask the next one?
I can. So, I know, like, with me, personally, like, whenever I post on the Socialist Type House, I get kind of, like, a lot of hate for being, like, a woman and having different opinions than, like, the average male viewer. Is there anything, like, specifically to, like, being a woman, you think, like, any type of, like, obstacles and stuff that you face from that?
I mean, obviously we have like people just think that they can like talk to you in like a certain way, like differently. Like if you look at people like Tyler Bluntman or like Violet Magic Sins or whatever, they speak down to me in a very vastly different way than they would ever speak to like their male counterparts, whether their peers are like they're talking to their peers on the right or the left.
Absolutely.
They just speak about it very like differently. They feel like they can kind of like say things that are more like personal. I get called like conceited and like narcissistic and like cocky and things like that, and I'm like, I'm not genuinely not like doing anything. Like I consider myself a pretty like humble person, like just because like I'm confident in like my like political abilities or even like my looks, like you just would never see like one of these men like telling a male on the left, oh, you're just conceited and like full of yourself, and like I'm like,
yeah,
and then like to repeal the 19th comments and things like that.
Yeah, like my thing is that I feel like I always like people talk to me like I'm stupid or something like that. It's like every single comment, it's like, oh, she obviously doesn't know what she's talking about. Oh, blah 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 blah. But it's like I research this stuff for fun. I think I would like to have some type of idea about what I'm talking about.
Right. And even just like the way like I remember like we were saying like Tyler Bowman, he like made a video about me and he called me like little Natalie and things like that, and that just like pissed me off. I was like don't like talk about me like that, like this like sarcastic, like I just hated it.
Well, if it's any consolation, Violet Magic Sin did win the award for cringiest conservative in our political.
Congratulations to him for that.
All power to you.
A wig to the awards show.
So I think now would be a good time to kind of get into the next category topic. I don't know why I keep saying category. Like it's Jeopardy.
Category is.
No, but the next topic would be TikTok harassment. So a lot of big creators and even a lot of medium and small creators have to deal with harassment. So we thought it would be kind of an interesting topic to talk to you about. So just start you off with kind of a general question. What would you say are some of the most common types of harassment you face?
Most common? Obviously, you have like hate comments that just can like get pretty nasty sometimes, or even like DM requests and like things like that. Even like doxing is just so common. Like I just know all of my friends have been doxed, and like I've been doxed, and it's just like such a weird thing that this is just part, like just for having like a different like political opinion, somebody could like be doxed. And I just don't understand it that much, because I have obviously very extreme views than anyone on the right or like any liberals, but I would never just like go to somebody's page and just like harass them and like make fun of them. Like I'll counter their views and I might get a little bit like snarky, but I've never just like been like a nasty person to anyone. So I just don't understand what's going on in like these people's heads and like why it's so common.
Like with doxing, I almost find it like it's very terrible, but I also find it like a tad bit funny, because like, what are you actually gonna do?
Yeah. Well,
like
it's don't they normally like, call like police officers and stuff to like your house or whatever?
You know, it was like with Emma Lou, they ordered like pizzas to her house, and at first I was like, wait, that's kind of like a good thing. They gave her.
That's funny though.
But then I was like, wait a minute. They ordered it so that she would have to pay for them.
Yeah.
And like I know people that's happened to, and even like Joshua Collins, like somebody showed up to his house and threw like a brick through his window. Or even like, as much as I don't like Heisenberg, somebody found out like his middle school son's like where he went to school, and like showed up there, and I'm like, this is not okay. Like, why are you bringing people's kids into this?
Yeah, that's definitely way too
And like,
far.
even as much as I don't like him, like it was pretty terrible when it happened to
Right.
Nick.
And there was, I can't remember for the life of me, I can't remember his name, but there's a creator who literally had to move and like change his phone number. And that's why it
Oh
was
my
so,
God.
it was like so appalling to me when everyone just had a hissy fit when Nick got doxxed. Because to this day, Nick is the only person on the right that I can name that has been like doxxed.
Yeah,
and I was
that's
like, I could give you a whole slew of people that not only have been doxxed on the left, but have had like actual like issues like with the law.
Right. In all fairness, there are probably more people
Yeah.
on the left.
Well, yeah,
But-
I mean, like,
totally get the point.
I feel like, I don't know, it's just such a scary thing to be doxxed because there's so many, like, different things. Because I mean, like, the most I knew about doxing before, like, I got popular, like, before I started, like, being on TikTok was, like, there's an episode of Degrassi where, like, one of the girls got doxxed on it, and, like, they sent the SWAT team to her house and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, like, it was really crazy, but, like, that's the most I knew about doxing, so I always took it to the extreme, but I never thought of, like, somebody just, like, sending a bunch of pizzas to your house or something. So, I mean, I guess it could be, like, I mean, I guess it's not, like, that lighthearted, but, I mean, there definitely are more extremist things that they could take it to, too.
Right.
Now, so going into the next question, obviously there is a literal, like, probably Merriam-Webster dictionary definition for harassment, but as someone who's faced notable harassment, what would you kind of draw the line between, like, just in your comments and criticizing you versus harassment? Where is that line for you?
Versus harassment, I think when people are telling you to like kill yourself, or people are like sending you like death threats, or telling me they hope like my mom like drives off a cliff and things like that. Personally, I would draw the line at any personal insults. I would just keep it like political, but that's never going to happen. So I think more realistically, the line should probably be drawn at death threats and like doxing people. Like that's just crossing the line.
Okay, I guess I would have a little bit of. I would say probably I would also draw the line at probably repeated personal attacks.
Yeah.
If you're just in your comment section just saying, "Oh, you're fat," "Oh, you're ugly," just multiple times over, I would consider that harassment as well.
Yeah. When it's like repeated, that's a big thing.
So I guess another question, like, with like being like so popular on TikTok now, you're almost at 100K followers and stuff like that. I'm sure you're very proud of like how far you've gotten in like the political community and stuff like that. But if you ever had the chance, would you like go back to like December whenever you like first decided to like make your account and post? Would you ever be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this?
It's kind of funny because I talk about this all the time. 100%. I would absolutely, like, if I had the chance to like have never started my account, I absolutely like would not. I think I'm like so grateful for being able to like have like the opportunity and a platform to like speak about things that I think are so important. But I've just like witnessed and experienced like so many things that so many people just like don't understand or like don't know about, that just like make me wish I just never had. And like I said, I'm really like happy I'm able to have the platform, and it's a really great thing to be able to like speak about it and raise awareness, and I'm very happy about that aspect of it. But I feel like for me and like my mental health, there's so much of like the negative aspect that I just it just bothers me, that like I wish I had never like gone into.
Do you think that perhaps if you could go back in time and say go on a different platform, it might be different? Like, do you think TikTok is especially toxic?
Yeah, yes and no. I definitely think it's just a lot easier to build a platform on TikTok.
Very.
Yes.
Like, it's very hard. If I've been tweeting since like 2012, like my political opinions, and never once like broke 200 followers ever doing it. I posted like my first like political TikTok on TikTok, like blew up, and like that was it. That's when it like started, and I was like, okay, well, this is easy. So it was very easy for someone to like blow up on TikTok. However, it's not very easy for someone to blow up on like Instagram or Twitter. There's just not really another platform to like have a big platform.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think like it's definitely like I noticed like personally, like I've known people that posted on YouTube for years and years, people that have been on Twitter, people that have been on Instagram, Twitch, even like any other like social media. you'll maybe like max out at like 10 viewers, 20 viewers, stuff like that. But like on TikTok, you post one video that gets on the For You page, you will be a completely different person. You'll gain followers like it's nothing, gain hate like it's nothing, you know?
And like the thing is on like Twitter, like we were talking about, you could have like 10 viral tweets and still never gain like more than like a couple thousand like followers. Like whereas on TikTok, if you have like a viral post, you're most likely to gain like a shit ton of like followers. Like that's just it's just more accessible. Like
also the definition of viral is extremely different on Twitter.
Yes.
Like I have like picture this in comparison. Like someone like Nick Fuentes has like the same amount of followers on Twitter that I have on TikTok, but it's very different. Like they're just like completely different levels of like fame.
TikTok clout isn't held as high as like what other clout is. But I mean, like, that's the crazy thing is that, like, it literally is, like, so easy to grow on TikTok. Like, that's, like, one of the only social medias that I've ever experienced where I've actually gained, like, an actual following on, like, in any type of way, you know? So, like, I'm sure with, like, especially being such a big creator, and especially in, like, the leftist community, you're probably, like, one of the most followed leftists in the entirety of political TikTok, and I'm sure you get tons of hate for it. Is there any, like, do you usually take like those criticisms of people like to heart? Like, does it like really hurt you that you take it personally, or are you usually just like whatever? It's just some dude hating on me for having an opinion.
It really depends, you know. Like I can't like there are some days where because I already struggle with like my mental health and like self-esteem and like things like that. So it kind of just depends on like what they say. Like sometimes I like reply or I'm like it's easy for me to like brush it off and just like send like a snarky reply back or like make like a joke out of it or like kind of like turn it on its head at them or things like that. And there are some times that where I literally just like I just cry. I'm like this is so mean. Like why would someone say something so horrible? Like yeah, it's probably when like prominent creators like come after you, like your peers, and they say things like when Tyler Bowman made that whole like spiel about me being like half a person and like trash and modern age Hitler. I like literally sat there and I was like, don't cry, don't. I was like on the phone with my friends and I was like, don't cry. And I started crying, and I was like, why is he being so mean to me?
And
like,
the fact is too, he's like a grown man too.
He's
like that's the thing. Is that like especially like because there's so like looking at TikTok demographics, there are so many like older people on TikTok and so many younger people. Like it is probably one of the broadest age ranges on a social media app that I can think of because like Facebook is all like old people, Twitter is all like millennials, like Gen Z people, YouTube is kind of like the same type of thing, but there is like an old person section, but like old people. But like the thing is that like with TikTok, like you could be like friends with like a 50-year-old like in the political world or something like that, and it really doesn't mean that much, you know? Like it's all just so like connected. Like and then especially with like I don't know, like I couldn't even imagine like me even being like a 20-year-old going after like a 16-year-old for their views. You know what I mean?
Weird.
It's really weird. Like
I remember Hunter Lowenberg, Nick's little brother, was in one of my comments saying like FDR was a bad person. So I made a reply out of his comment. He replied to that video, and I was about to reply to that, and I was like, you know, he's 14. I really don't want to get into this with a 14-year-old.
Yeah, like that's the thing is that you definitely have to have some type of like sense of maturity, and it shows that like a 30-year-old man has no sense of maturity if you're gonna go attack a child for their political opinions.
That's like me attacking like a literal like I can't do math, but like someone under the age of 10. That's like
you're like, oh, you don't know anything. You're an idiot.
Like someone the age of like my 8-year-old brother. Like imagine if I just like bullied them on the internet and called like an 8-year-old like the modern age Hitler. Like and his excuse was, oh, you're signing up for this when you get into politics. You need to pull your big girl panties up. And I was like, I don't see like Bernie Sanders and like Joe Biden on the stage like calling each other like half a person and just saying like, oh, you're trash. That's not politics. Like we can talk about politics because I debated Tyler Bowman. Like that's politics. Like that was perfectly fine. And then all of a sudden he's like going on a rampage about me, and I was like, what is going on?
I don't mean to interrupt. I have to read this comment because it's hilarious. This is from Crazy Beard, one of our founders. He goes, as an older person on TikTok, we don't claim Tyler Bluntman. I think that's kind of a good spot to transition into the third topic, the future of the Progressive Party in America. So as of right now, the Progressive Party's hopes for the presidency at least are dead. at least for 2020.
Yeah.
So I guess the it's time to start looking forward to 2024. Who do you think are some potential progressive candidates who could run in 2024?
You know, I hate calling her a progressive, but I think Elizabeth Warren will try to run again. The other person I know for sure, or not for sure, but who's likely to run again is also AOC. That's kind of who everybody's putting everybody's putting their eggs in like her basket right about now. She's like the most like the next person up. But other than that, I'm not really entirely sure.
Right. I think the problem is that there are a lot of progressives in the House.
Right.
But there's only like 3 in the Senate, 4 if you include Warren. And also with the people in the House, they haven't been there that long.
They're not very seasoned.
That's the thing,
So-
especially with like AOC, she's only just now gotten into the House and stuff like that. She's just now gaining her platform. The thing is to be able to win over the entire country. I mean, even like a seasoned veteran politician, Hillary Clinton couldn't get over the Democratic vote. Obviously, like Hillary Clinton was a terrible person, is a terrible person, but like but I mean the fact is that like I feel like if she can't even beat like somebody like Trump or something like that, then it's probably gonna be kind of a hard, especially in like a progressive like type of way. I feel like it'll be hard to like I feel like the most that we'll be able to get is any type of moderate Democrat in.
Right.
Is this for AOC or is this for just progressives in general?
Progressives in general. I think personally.
I disagree with that notion. I think progressives, put a true progressive like Bernie Sanders, like AOC, like Ro Khanna, like Rashida Tlaib, put them up against Trump or put them up against any Republican really, and they win.
No, like I think
they have to start growing a pair and actually go after the DNC.
They have to make a separate, like, that is the only way I think they would have any chance of winning. It's like a separate political party because they're not going to be able to win as Democrats.
Right.
Because the only way to get like the Democrat vote is that like you'd have to shift your like policies to be more moderate in a way to get that. Yeah, like it's like you're gonna have to give up what you truly believe just to get that vote.
I'm so surprised with you saying this. I do not agree with this at all.
Really?
I don't. A couple things. So one, when you aside from the Democratic Socialist levels, when you actually poll Bernie Sanders' agenda, Medicare for All polled about 80%.
Policies are very popular. You're right about that.
So I think the policies are very popular, and also the fact that they are extremely anti-corruption.
Well, yes.
Out of politics is also popular. I think if Bernie wanted to win, I don't even think it was about the Democratic Socialist level. I think he just ran a not good campaign.
I mean, like my thing is
some aspects,
that like I look at it as like the DNC is like the entire like American government to me is like an oligarchy basically. They're not gonna let people get through like Bernie Sanders. They're not gonna let people like that get any chance at the political nomination unless they give some of what they believe up. That's why Hillary Clinton became the nominee, is because
they're gonna go with the person who will do it like the DNC wants, the person who's like the easy choice. Because even when you look at it, it's not just like about the DNC and how they like coerced and Obama was behind, like the people dropping out and things like that, like the phone calls. I don't know if any of you watch like Kyle Kalinske, but on his channel he calls it like Bloody Monday, the day when all like the moderates like dropped out right before Super Tuesday. But even if that hadn't happened, the way people still vote and like in this election, especially we were talking about how like in exit polls, like things like Medicare for All and a Green New Deal polled extremely high. But the reason that those are the same places that Joe Biden won is because those people also overwhelmingly said that electability was their most like important factor. They said that they thought Joe Biden was the more electable candidate, so even though they liked Bernie's policies, they didn't exactly think Bernie as a person could pull it off, which just makes me so mad because if you look at like the actual empiricism and statistics behind it, Bernie would have had the best shot at winning in places like that.
So, and that's what I mean by Bernie didn't run a good campaign. This entire campaign, Joe Biden made sure that this entire campaign was centered around the completely ridiculous idea of electability. You had to play by Joe Biden's rules because Joe Biden, even when he was behind, you knew Joe Biden was the front runner.
Yes.
Right.
I think it's definitely because he did have Obama's base and everything like that too. Like I know especially a lot of African Americans and stuff like that, older African Americans, they would prefer to have it in the Obama administration than they would in the other new administration because that's what they know works.
Right.
And I think also like
it's like name recognition, something that's familiar.
Right, and I think also this is where I say Bernie didn't run a good campaign. Right. You were coming out of the third state, basically having won the first 3 states. And the fact that Joe Biden was able to win South Carolina by 30 points is more a failure of Bernie's campaign not to capitalize on momentum than it is Joe Biden just somehow turning into like a fluent candidate.
And I definitely agree with you here. We kind of talked about this like last night, how if you had a candidate with Bernie's policies and like a more of a Trump-like tactics where he's attacking the media, he's attacking his other candidates, maybe not in the like same nasty way that Trump does it.
Tulsi Gabbard, honestly.
But very much so like how, because everybody else up on that stage, you know, totally completely villainized, especially once Bernie had started like becoming more and more ahead, completely just like went after him.
Yeah, and
attacked him, and like the media, he never had, if he had if MSNBC or like CNN or some other left-wing like media had Bernie's back, if they were the ones who were like platforming like Bernie Sanders in the same way that Trump always had like Fox like in his pocket, maybe not throughout his entire campaign, but once Trump was like the front runner, Fox was like, all right, we're backing Trump. But Bernie never had that. Bernie never had that massive like media like backing him. It was always MSNBC and like CNN literally would have taken anybody like over Bernie Sanders. If he had that like media like backing him, he could have totally done it more, and he should have attacked the media for not backing him more, in my opinion.
Right.
Well, because
yeah, go ahead.
Well, because I was just going to say, too, like, even if you look at, like, the debates and stuff like that, like, the entirety of the Democratic Party and stuff would just hate on Bernie anytime, like, you look at the debates and stuff like that. Even Elizabeth Warren, that's supposed to be a progressive and on the same side as Bernie Sanders, would attack him just as much as Joe Biden would attack him and stuff like that. Which, if you're supposed to be on the same side, like, everyone wants to say that, like, Elizabeth Warren is a progressive, is Elizabeth Warren this, like, but she wasn't even on the same side as Bernie. Like, it's the opposite sides of a coin, you know?
I just got to close my door really quick.
Okay. But, like, my thing, like, you just look at that, and it just shows that, like, obviously, even, like, the real progressives were not even a part of, like, Bernie's actual progressive campaign. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially with Elizabeth Warren, Jesus, I can't talk. Elizabeth Warren, like, basically, like, Warren, like taking Bernie's votes basically by staying in the election, because there are so many people that were like Warren supporters that are like, oh, if Warren wasn't running, I'd be voting for Bernie. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like that
baffles me at how many, even after Warren dropped out, just how many of her supporters like went to Biden, and I was like, are you kidding me? That pissed me off. I literally made a series on my account, and I was like, Warren supporters, do not like vote for Joe Biden. I like put their policies like side by side, like Bernie's, Warren's, and then Biden's, and like just like none of Biden's and Warren's matched up, but all of like Warren's and Bernie's did. And I was like, why are you voting for Joe Biden? Like, I can't comprehend it.
Yeah, it just shows that, like, I feel like that just proves that people don't really vote for what they believe in either. Right. They just vote for the person, you know?
Right. They're voting on a completely subjective thing in elective voting. I think now would be a good time to maybe move into the last topic of the night before we open up the floor to the audience for some questions. The future of capitalism. So we are the Socialist Hype House. We are a mix of socialists and communists. Yes. So we obviously do not believe in capitalism. Do you think capitalism can be reformed, or do you think a total overhaul of the system is necessary?
Well, here's the thing, is in the future, like in the next few years, and this is just a fact, the percent margin of like market freedom and the percent margin of social reforms, it's slowly, you're going to start seeing a decrease of like, room for the markets, and you're going to start seeing an increase of like room for social safety nets and social reforms. Like, this is just like, that's just the way the country is going. Do I think that in like the next like 5 years we're going to be a completely socialist country? Absolutely not. But do I think that people are slowly starting to recognize the failures of capitalism? Definitely. People are definitely starting to realize how capitalism just like is not the solution to our problems. So I think maybe within like the next election cycle, in the next like 10-15 years, we're going to slowly start seeing a shift more towards how like the Nordic countries, like in their their amount of like social democracy. So I definitely think the country is going to start moving that way. But when we're talking about countries that have like a social democracy, when capitalism is there, like even no matter how much of like a social safety net you have, no matter how much of like these social reforms and social programs you have, you still have the exploitative and like imperialistic like system of capitalism at the root of it. And so as long as that element of it is there, it's never like you're just always going to have that system. No matter how many social safety nets you put in, you're always going to have like the exploitativeness and like corruptness of capitalism.
Sure. So let's talk about really quickly one of the progressive platform's more ambitious policies, I would say, in the Green New Deal. So the Green New Deal is basically saying we're going to create a whole new infrastructure with electricity. It's going to cost a lot, but ultimately it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that a Green New Deal can save the planet?
Do I believe it can save the planet? Probably not. Do I think that it is the best solution? I do think it is the best solution that the U.S. can put forth to do our part in trying to, decrease like carbon emissions and things of that nature. It's arguably the best thing we can do. I don't think it's going to save the planet, probably slow down at the very least the rate that, global warming is and like climate change is happening at the very least.
Sure. So
global warming is like obviously like a global, like it needs to be a global movement.
Right.
But I also think like going along with that, if the US implements like a Green New Deal, that definitely could, spark like in other countries following that. They'll start to kind of follow in that lead because the US very much does like set a precedent in the way that we go about like certain things. So I definitely think it will help immensely.
So I think that, so I identify as an eco-socialist. So I do not believe my philosophy is basically workers owning the means of production with an emphasis on environmental policies. So when I hear people talk about the Green New Deal, basically the problem is that I think with the Green New Deal is that it only talks about one aspect of climate change. So first of all, I don't think that profit and the health of the planet are compatible. Right. I think the two inherently conflict. And when we talk about a Green New Deal and specifically fossil fuels, there are so many other parts of climate change and of the destruction of the planet. Deforestation, biodiversity destruction, the ozone layer getting destroyed. All of these things will not be solved by a Green New Deal. And all of these things, even how companies dispose of their toxic waste, all of these things contribute to the crippling of our environment and our earth as a whole. And ultimately, where I stand is that a Green New Deal obviously is a better situation than what we have now. But ultimately, I don't think it can
fix the damage it's done.
Right.
That's been done.
The best way. You can't overturn the damage, but like you're saying, these are issues like the way we dispose of waste, like emissions and just things like that go hand in hand with capitalism. So the only way you could really, stop putting that damage out there would be to
take profit.
Overhaul our
take
capitalist system.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so like obviously it seems like you're very like not very pro-capitalist, which I appreciate because I'm on the more communist side of the socialist hype house. So what is your opinion on billionaires? Like, do you think that they should exist? Do you think they exist ethically?
No, absolutely not. I do not think they can exist ethically at all. There's just no ethical way to make $1 billion. Like, this is a fact, and it's also a fact that they just sit on this money. Not only is it completely unethical to make $1 billion, but it's unethical to have billionaires as a whole when you have people starving and you have people without health care. There's just nothing ethical about these billionaires. There's no ethical way to do it.
And my thing is I know, like, me personally, it's like almost impossible for me to even think about the ways I would spend $1 million. And these
You
people,
just can't.
like, even like, just imagine like having, like, if I even had like even just like $500 extra in my bank account, that would mean so much more to me than what
Right.
like $500 is Jeff Bezos. I think like I saw somewhere that like us spending $20, like us like average middle class Americans spending $20 is like the same as Jeff Bezos spending $1 million. Like, it's like, could you imagine $1 million being pocket change? That literally, I don't even
Yeah.
know how anybody can just like defend that in any type of way either. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much you could do with just $1 million, like fixing so many different things wrong with just the country in general, not to mention worldwide. And then
Right.
the fact is, they just let this sit in their bank account doing who knows what. So I'm
People
guess.
like to say, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go. You
I was
have
about
the
to say,
floor.
what was I gonna say? The heck? Oh, people always like to say, oh, they donate it to charities, they're investing it. They're not just sitting on this money, and I'm like, but they are
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
And I
literally.
really
Go ahead, Jonah.
okay. I really hate the charity point because more often than not, the charity that people give, like when we give like $200 to Goodwill or something, that is not the same thing as what like rich philanthropy is.
Right.
That is an extreme web of various tax shelters and loopholes.
Mm-hmm.
And they do give more money than we do at the end of the day, but they also save way more in taxes.
Not to mention, charity kind of sucks anyways. That's kind of my personal opinion, because you shouldn't be giving the decision to one person to decide
Right.
whether or not to fix a community or something like that.
It's like a one faceted like aspect of like helping the community.
Also, charity just shouldn't be necessary.
Yeah,
Right.
like that's the thing, is that you shouldn't have to beg Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates to help out a community like Flint, Michigan or something like that. That should be up to like the government's job to fix these places. And the fact is that like, and people assume like whenever you say like, oh, the government should be responsible for like fixing like a water crisis or like food shortage and stuff like that in the country. But then it's like, oh, well, that's giving the government more power. Like, how is that giving the government more power to do their job?
Do their job.
I don't get
right.
that. It's never understood that to me. So like I'm on the more communist side of the socialist hype house. But I personally think that there will be a revolution, especially with all the riots and stuff happening in Minneapolis and stuff like that. I think the revolution is coming. People are realizing that like capitalism is not working for the people. Do you think there will be like a true like communist revolution in the future?
Or just a revolution in
Or a
general.
revolution in general?
Revolution.
But
Yeah. Definitely. I think we're seeing right now people are realizing the tactics that they have to take to get your government to listen to you. You can't just sit there and ask them nicely to care about you. So yeah, I do think in even if it's just a small aspect of some sort of like mini like revolution, like say like a democratic like walkout and like forming like a third like a left party, we are gonna see in like the next few years and like the next decade and going forward more people really taking action and realizing the what's the word I'm looking for, the large steps that are going to have to be taken to like force your government to give you basic like necessities, like what your government should be doing for you. So I definitely do think there are going to be a lot more revolutionary elements of like protests and things like that in our future.
So I think that's all the questions we have.
yeah.
We were actually able to get to most of them, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So at this point, we're going to open it up to about 10 minutes of Q&A where you can ask MK questions or either of us questions. So
Or MK, do you have any questions for me or Jonah?
That's very true.
I don't know.
We'll give you a little bit.
That's fine.
Crazy Beard wants to know if Stalin is daddy.
Oh, absolutely.
Iconic. Oh, then you might appreciate my wallpaper. Hold on. Let me get rid of my notifications.
I didn't know you had a wallpaper.
My beautiful man right here.
Beautiful, amazing.
Let's see. Yes. I guess this is a question for MK. Jen WLWD. Which which state should be a role model for the U.S. in your opinion?
Oh yes.
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. Maybe like Massachusetts. Because I'm just thinking like healthcare right now, and to my knowledge, they have had like expanses in like their healthcare in like the past like recent years, that have really been effective. And I think Massachusetts usually takes like pretty good like role when it comes to like situations. So maybe Massachusetts. My honest opinion is probably none of them. Like every state.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
They're all under the same system, so they suck.
Right.
So the people want to know: are you pro-Bingus or anti-Bingus?
Oh,
Pro
Bingus.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yes, a queen.
We stand. I guess Kristen, this will be more a question for you. What are books to read about communism?
Well, at the Socialist Hype House Discord, we are doing a book club, and currently we're reading State and Rev. I don't know where my copy is of the book right now, but it depends on what you would like to read. Tommy the Commie would probably be a better recommendation, but obviously, here's my State and Rev copy. So State and Rev is what we're reading now, but I like Rosa Luxemburg's work a lot. So if you're looking, especially
start with the manifesto.
Well, manifesto, obviously. But it seems like if you want books to read about communism, it sounds like you already have your basis of communism, so you want to read more. I love Rosa Luxemburg. She is a queen, female communist, one of my icons. And then also reading more about like Marxist feminism and Lenin feminism is like my main stuff. So
MK, Crazy Beard wants to know cats or dogs.
I'm gonna get so clocked for this question, but cats.
Oh no, Crazy Beard's gonna love you.
Crazy
He's a
Beard
cat daddy.
Okay,
Yes, I also
Crazy
agree. Cats
Crazy
forever.
Beard.
In my head, for some reason, I always think of like dogs as like cops and cats are communists. In my head, I associate like the two.
I mean, you don't be seeing police cats.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You do not. I think there's another question for
Jen WLWD. We'll apply this to all of us. Thoughts on late-term abortions?
Yeah, I'm not really for abortions in the third trimester. I don't think anybody is. There have been circumstances, though, I will say, where people, this is extremely rare, though, where they didn't know they were pregnant until very late term, or it was like a young like girl, preteen, teen, where if they delivered the baby it would kill them. But most of the time, whatever medical procedure is like necessary, whatever is medically wrong can be fixed with like a C-section rather than an abortion. So it's definitely very rare that would ever be necessary. I know right now it's legal in 7 states, late-term abortion, for like the case of viability and if the mother's life is at risk. And that's kind of how I see it.
We have a question from, first of all, Crazy Beard wants you to know, MK, now you're now one of his heroes.
Oh my God, awesome.
And secondly, we have a question. I'll again apply this to all of us. This is from Pat Cregan. Does universal healthcare mean lesser quality healthcare?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
The empiricism behind, countries that have universal healthcare or a nationalized healthcare system, most of them, all of them usually rank higher than quality than the US.
Yeah, not to mention, I feel like with my health insurance anyways, I don't feel like the quality of healthcare I get is all that amazing that I'm like, I can't lose this.
And here's the thing is, when you have like privatized healthcare or even like a public option, what you're essentially saying is the more you pay, like the better care you get.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you have like a nationalized healthcare system or a Medicare for all system, everybody's getting kind of like the same like medical care.
Mm-hmm.
There's more room to be shitty healthcare within
what you like giving it, you get what you pay for, sort of thing. And some people can't afford the best stuff.
And that's the same thing with like the public option, which I like to say it's inherently classist, because you're saying if you can pay this amount of money to have private insurance, you get better healthcare. Whereas if you're poor, basically like screw you, you get like the shitty and underfunded like public healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
It's like lesser quality.
So I'm gonna ask one more question because I just thought of one I was thinking about the late-term abortion. Then I'm going to ask another question from the audience. What's your opinions on infanticide?
Like, what are my opinions on it?
Yeah. Should it be legal in the U.S.? Should it be allowed?
I don't think it should be allowed in the U.S.
Interesting. So Finn from the Communist Type House was on a Discord call with us one night, and he was talking about this actually, and the way he explained it was actually pretty. The way when you at first it sounds terrible, like what you're going to kill a live baby.
I actually just haven't. I was about to say I haven't looked into it like enough to really have an opinion on it.
It would basically only be applied if the baby could not live past a certain point. Like if the baby was pretty much destined to die or was in so much pain, that's when you kind of think, okay, is it maybe do we consider kind of putting this thing out of its misery?
That makes it sound like an animal, though, kind of.
Yeah, I don't really.
It does, but also it's at some point it might be the more humane option. But okay, so Jen WLWD wants to know, okay, since I asked about a state, which country should be a role model for the U.S.?
Well, we were talking earlier about how social democracies aren't necessarily the answer to our issues. So, but there aren't exactly countries right now that have anything more extreme that's really could be a role model for the U.S. So the closest thing, though, as far as like the social democracies go, any of the Nordic countries really could be a model for the U.S. to follow in the next coming years. For now, at least.
I would say that for me personally, I don't think there's any country because I want a state of full communism, and that's what should be the role model for the United States.
That's what I'm saying. There aren't any that are like based enough.
Yeah, I mean, Cuba's pretty based. USSR, that's the country should be a role model.
Right, I was saying, but they're not really.
Not anymore, but
right now.
Mason Smith and Jen WLWD would both like to say, I think this is to all of us, that we apparently inspired them into getting them into politics at various points. So
cool.
Great. And also Pat Cregan says my abortion debates are so good. Never had an abortion debate, so
favorite politician.
Yes, favorite politician. Mine.
This is a very difficult question.
Because like none of them.
Right.
I mean, if you're thinking about American politics, but you could be talking about like communist politicians, and then you got like Stalin, Fidel. Yeah, Stalin. I mean,
Castro. You just gotta.
Yeah.
I'm an Evo Morales fan personally.
But are you talking? But if you're asking about American politicians, that's not applicable.
Probably like Rashida Tlaib. Also, Pat Cregan apparently meant Jonah Axum, so.
Oh, not you. Damn, you thought.
Sorry.
Current Americans?
And I'm kicking you. We have a lot of AOC stands in our comments.
It's so crazy, like, to me, like, how much, like, AOC is, like, blown up, because, like, you would think, like, a House of Representative, like, person wouldn't be all that big, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know the House of Representatives in the state I live in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I only know, like, mine.
Yeah, but I don't know any other ones.
It's kind of ass, but he's there.
Yeah, oh, same. Mine accepts so much PAC money and stuff like that.
I mean, my senator, I have,
I got Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul, so you can't beat that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have, Richard Burr and Tom Tillis.
Oh, one more question before I think this will be the last one. Do you think black people can be racist, or do you think that you can be racist towards white people? I think those are two different questions.
I think black people can be racist towards other races. I don't think they can be racist towards white people, but they can be racist towards Asians and Hispanic people. But I don't think they definitely cannot be racist to like a white person, and nobody can be racist towards a white person. You could be prejudiced towards a white person, but you cannot be racist because racism means that you hold power over them.
Yep.
It's just like a basic definition of it is how I usually explain it.
So
Mitch
I
McConnell
think
looks like a dying turtle. I agree.
Right. So I think we're going to end the broadcast there. But before we do,
Kristen, I have an announcement. So we were looking for a new Hype House member because we recently had someone leave. So our new Hype House member is at Comrade Stash on TikTok. He is in the Simp Hype House as well, and he is a new member of the Socialist Hype House. He is pro-Bingus and an anarcho-communist. So everyone, give a warm welcome to Comrade
Warm
Stash.
welcome.
Yeah.
He's going to be posting
Oh.
very soon.
Yes, I think
That'll conclude it for us here at the Socialist Type House. MK, I'm not Natalie. Thank you very much for being a part of this
thank you.
series.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
we are going to sign off. Thank you for watching. We'll post the clips
Goodbye.
sometime soon.
Is it gone?